With some perspective on the development of empiricism acquired, let's continue forward with our timeline. Enlightenment was well underway during the latter half of the 17th century, with the scientific revolution establishing rapid technological and scientific development. There were also the new humanist ideas setting the stage for stark political change, such as the Glorious Revolution in England and the French Revolution. Not only that, but the British Royal Society began to focus greatly on the empiricist method for research into the natural sciences, which helped to lead empiricism into new and more developed ideas, many of which are still relevant to contemporary sciences and philosophy. John Locke was another political philosopher and a strong influencer of the Glorious Revolution, but he also developed relevant empiricist ideas in the late 17th century. He took the empiricist skepticism to new heights as a strong proponent of the model of the mind as a tabula rasa, a blank slate, meaning that we are born without any innate ideas, and everything we come to know is from sense experience. We identify simple truths through them and generate more complex ideas by combining and contrasting these simpler ones. His ideas on the mind were very influential in psychology and epistemology. Like Aquinas before him, he proposed that ethical and civil behavior should be guided by certain natural laws that we understand through our rational intuition in order for society to thrive and all of us flourish, but we will get more into that political aspect later. Following Locke, George Berkeley is also considered an empiricist, but he veered more into what would become idealism, so we will come back to him later as well. In the next century, the Scottish philosopher David Hume encompassed his predecessors and moved toward a purely empirical investigation of ethics, the mind, and other philosophical concepts, stating in the title of his first major work that he'd tackle moral subjects and human nature itself with a method of reasoning based on experimental evidence. One of the things that sets him apart from his predecessors is that reason itself takes a secondary role to the emotions in the intellect. He even utilizes a prototypical method of comparative ethology, or the study of animal behavior, to recognize the similarities between humans and other animals, such as dogs, stating as an obvious truth, given their behavior, that they possess the same reason that we do, although in a different degree, a position similar to what Darwin would defend a century later. Thus, as other animals, only through the guidance of our emotions can we perceive things, ruled by the simple biological principles of seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. Ideas, then, would be akin to impressions provided by our bodily senses, and only through combining these impressions with our imagination could we have something which is purely ideal. Given the fact that we can experience gold and mountains, we can thus imagine mountains made of gold. And his ethical perspective follows in this context, that we should use our imagination to calculate the least amount of pain and highest amount of pleasure to guide our actions and differentiate between right and wrong, though never sacrificing any individual rights in the process. This perspective of moral calculus is what Jeremy Bentham coined as utilitarianism, with Hume emphasizing moral evaluation based on feelings rather than other measures. Though clearly a defender of an empirical scientific methodology, he was also a great critic of induction, for the concept of causation has no logical bearing on the real world. When we see smoke, there may be fire, but maybe not, and the sun may rise each day, but it also may not. This also led to the creation of what is called Hume's law, Hume's guillotine, or simply the is-ought gap, which, as the latter name suggests, highlights the issue of ascribing an ought statement to an is statement. For example, from the fact that Dave is a YouTuber, there is no logical necessity that Dave ought to make videos. He may if he will or can, however he also may not or not be able to at this time. We will analyze this further when we discuss modern logic, but it will suffice to say that this was a game changer in philosophy and it influenced much scientific perspective and ethical discussion until today. Voltaire, born François-Marie Arouet, was also an empiricist at the time of Hume, but his ideas were too inseparable from his political writings, so we will come back to him as well. What is relevant for the moment is that he criticized the rationalist position, for it veered too far from the real world, assuming a perfection of laws and society, which contrasted with the many issues and inequalities real people face. Thus, only through empirical analysis can we achieve a truly just nation. Voltaire was also a literary writer using satire and parody to explore philosophical arguments. For instance, Candide, or The Optimist, is a piece written as a direct response to Leibniz's best world possible perspective, denouncing that the best world was still full of cruelty and injustice, and that the rationalist perspective leads ultimately to conformism. Finally, John Stuart Mill was also another famous political philosopher who, much like Hume and other empiricists, defended a wholly naturalistic worldview in that our minds and knowledge are part of the natural world, and that the experimental method of science is our best tool to understand it. Likewise, he posited that no idea lacking a factual connection could be possible in our minds, and language is inherent to those that are. He thus goes on, inspired by Hume, to devise a strong logical theory against deduction, which focuses more on abstract connections, and praising inductive reasoning, the main logical focus of the scientific method. Still, certain beliefs may be more warranted than others, given previous data on their subject matter, and hypotheses still retain importance to suggest investigative paths. Deductive reasoning can also ultimately be useful to organize knowledge, as with geometry and arithmetic. Both are inherently false, as there's no perfect geometrical form or arithmetic table in the real world, but we can generalize their laws and principles through the actual experience of real-world shapes and quantities in an empirical manner. Empiricism helped set the tone for much of contemporary philosophy, and also for any scientific endeavor as a whole, allowing for traditionally isolated subjects like ethics, the mind, and society to be subject to experimental methods like any other applied science. Following them, the idealists attempted to unite both rationalism and empiricism into a single unified theory, with even Kant, one of the greatest idealists we'll see, claiming that Hume was single-handedly responsible for awakening him from his dogmatic slumber. However, as the name suggests, much stronger emphasis was given to the metaphysical aspect of rationalism than to the experimental methods of empiricism. Let's move forward and check out this movement next.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more tutorials. Support me on Patreon so I can keep making content. And as always, feel free to email me, ProfessorDaveExplains@gmail.com.